morning, Westeros!
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Glow.
And I'm Kyle, and we're the fucking Morning Throners.
All right, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Morning Throners podcast. We're here talking Arya 1, and I'm jacked up because I've already declared to all my friends that I'm naming my first daughter Arya. So
am I, so I'm going to beat you to it, Jeff.
Hey,
It's a race.
you don't even have a girlfriend,
Yeah,
let
well,
alone a girl
whatever.
that wants to say hi to you. So
It's a nerd
Fuck.
off.
Let's not bring that topic up. Let's just move on to the chapter.
all right, here we go.
Nelson, how's Luke?
Luke's great. If Luke and I could have a kid,
He'd have a couple already.
You'd have a couple.
all right, but we're back. We're with Arya. Time period on this one. I'll look at the timeline again. I think this one said there's no evidence as to exactly when this timeline takes place, but it's estimated at a day after the last one. And the last one, like we covered in the last episode, is when Catelyn 2, when she is talking to Ed, and Maester Lewin comes in when they're in the bedroom after she just got nutted in. So basically, let's give a little recap what happened last time, which leads into this one. Who wants to give me a recap what happened to Catelyn 2?
I'll give it to you. So they just got done banging Catelyn and Ned. They knock on the door. Master Lewin comes in, has a secret box from Lysa, where it's like a weird shut up, Alexa. A weird telescope looking thing and a note in a crazy language that only Catelyn and Lysa know.
Yep.
So it pretty much said that Jon Arryn was murdered and it was done by the Lannisters and to fear for your lives, and that's why I'm back in the Vale, and pretty much that. And we know that Ned was asked to be the hand of the king, and he's pretty much
he was
doesn't
on
want
the
to go.
fence, but
They
when
just
this
talked
letter
him into
comes,
that, yeah.
Catelyn's like, you gotta go now.
Now you
Yeah.
gotta go.
And he's completely on the other side, because he's, doesn't want to leave Winterfell and whatnot. And she's like, you need to go figure out what's going on and save the realm.
So then they divvy up the
Pretty much.
kids. What's the kid distribution? Kyle, do you remember? Who's going where? Who's staying? Who's going?
John's going to the wall.
Yeah, so that's
Rob
the
is
end.
staying.
Yep, Rob's staying.
Rickon and Sansa are going with him. Or with her, rather. Right? And
Sansa definitely
Arya
is.
is staying.
No,
Rickon's staying with Catelyn.
Rickon's
just
staying.
Rickon staying.
Rickon and Rob, because Rickon's
Rickon
like
and
3,
Rob.
Oh, okay.
2 or 3. Bran is going.
Yeah. Bran, Arya, and Sansa are going.
Okay, yeah, no, I see that now. I assume because he was a child that he would be picked, but I guess they don't give a shit about that.
Well, that's why they picked Bran. And they say that Rickon is actually staying because he's too little, because he's only
Yeah,
2,
he's like 3.
or 2 or 3, yeah. So then, then the last part is, like you said, they decide John's going to the wall, and that's basically the end of that chapter. So we pick up here. Arya is doing needlework, which I guess is just like what ladies do in medieval times, or in their spare time
So-
they just do embroidery. That's what I'm picturing, right? Embroidery. They're
it's
not
weird.
like knitting blankets.
Yeah.
Well, so later on, I mean, you saw earlier, or what's his name, Joffrey, and they're talking about how his embroidery is so perfect.
yeah.
So it's stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
like I
it's
mean,
just-
they're
And because they're saying your stitches are straight, I guess it's like draw a house on. Embroidery is a thing where like you see people with like it looks like almost the face
A
of
little
drum.
disc thing,
A little
yeah,
disc,
yeah.
and they, like-
Yeah, and they put little either sayings or little pictures, like a house or...
Yeah, so they're drawing
Exactly
a
what
little
you're
house. Or
I feel like
direwolf
it's
or something.
really hard to be crooked, though. Like, just
Yeah, I
pull
feel like
out
it's
the-
got to be real rough to be bad at stitching.
pull out the
wait,
stitch
wait,
and
wait,
do
wait,
it
wait.
again.
Let's see
I mean,
one of you three
I don't know, yeah.
try
I don't
and do
think I'd be-
this. Yeah.
I don't think I'd be too good at it.
Embroider
give
me
me-
something, Jeff.
you give me
Embroider
a-
me something.
You give me a professor that can teach me how to do it, and give me
Septim Ordain.
YouTube. You got
I
the
can do it.
YouTube, man.
There's no doubt about it. I could be.
I have a great
good
idea. Let's have
embroiderer.
Jeff dress up like a septa, and then we'll film him teaching embroidery, and we'll put it on YouTube as like Septim Ordain stitching lessons or something like that. It'll be great. I think
You
that'll
guys-
increase
If
our
I get
subscribership
paid
on YouTube.
if you pay me $100 an hour, I'll do it.
I don't know if that's in
Alright,
my
cool.
budget.
We'll film you for 10 minutes.
Alexa, order some embroidering discs on Amazon. Is that what that's called?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Probably
Alright, so
not,
they're doing
considering Alexa
embroidery.
said nothing.
Or they're doing stitching. Arya sucks at it. Sansa is with two of her friends, so she's with
Jane
Jean
Poole.
and Beth Cassell.
Cassell. Yeah. So Gene Poole is
Wait,
the
that's how you
steward.
say Cassell, not Castle?
I say Castle.
Is it spelled Castle? Isn't
So it
Castle
is-
L-E?
Isn't it
It's-
Roger?
I went to school with
No,
a kid
Roger
with that
Castle.
last name, so I call it Castle. Yeah.
It could be either. I'm sure you could pronounce it either way. But so wait, the other one is named Gene Poole, like legitimately named
Yeah.
Gene Poole.
Gene
Yeah.
or Jane.
Jane,
Right?
Jane.
Jane Poole.
But yeah,
Jane Poole. Okay.
there's a lot
Is
of
that-
funny names in this
is
book
that like-
that I don't think that even like Jeff realized. Like, there's a character later, and this isn't a spoiler. His name is Shit. The guy in the Night's Watch. His name is Shit.
Why is Jane Poole a funny name?
Gene Poole.
Like Gene Poole.
Gene Poole.
Yeah. Jeff, you're dense. Thick as a castle wall.
Georgia joke bombed on
That's the Castle
Like-
Wall.
Considering I was thinking it was Jane Poole.
I mean, still, same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are like Sansa's best friends. Is Gene Poole and Jane Poole and Beth Cassell. Castle.
And
Beth
both of the dads have a spot at the castle.
Yes, exactly. So I think her dad is Vayon Poole, who is the steward.
What's his first name?
Vayon.
Yeah,
like a van pool.
Yeah, Van Poole. Like a carpool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the third brother. That's her brother, Carpool.
Carpool.
Yeah, no. So Vayon Poole is her dad. He's the steward, and then Beth Cassell's dad is the guy who we see later in this chapter teaching everybody how to sword fight. Roger
Castle.
Cassell.
I say Castle.
Cassell. Castle's
I'm fighting
Ellie.
you
Whatever.
over.
Doesn't matter. So that's who's stitching. Arya, those two girls, and probably some other girls, but those are the two we hear by name. And then the last one is Marcella, who is the princess, the king and queen's daughter, which is what princess means. And Arya sucks at stitching.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
She'd be better at being a blacksmith.
That's what they say. They say Sansa's stitches are as pretty as she is, but Arya has the hands of a blacksmith. And they like start gossiping, and Arya is afraid the whole time that Septa is gonna look at her work and yell at her for sucking. But she's like, I don't have to worry about this. She's too busy like trying to impress the princess to be worried about me.
I think she was also afraid at the start that the other girls were talking about her.
Well, they
Yeah.
oh yeah, because the other girls are like whispering to each other.
For
and
sure,
giggling,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and she gets really defensive.
Yeah, so she asks what they're talking about, and that's when they say, oh, we're talking about Joffrey. Sansa's going to marry Joffrey. It's going to be so great.
Sansa's or Joffrey's so beautiful.
He's so majestic. Oh yeah.
So
I love-
Sansa
I
is
love-
11 here,
Yeah.
and Arya's
Arya's
9.
9. Gene Poole's probably
10.
Gene Poole.
Probably about
I
the
said
same.
Gene.
Joffrey's 12.
And then Beth is a little bit younger than Amal, right?
Yeah. I don't have her.
Yeah.
age.
They treated her like she was younger.
Um,
They mentioned they context clues that she was young.
Yeah. So they're talking about Joffrey, how handsome he is, and how these girls are talking about how Sansa, if they get married, she'll be queen one day. And Sansa like says something to like Arya, like, "What do you think of Joffrey? Isn't he so gallant or something like that?"
I think he looks like a girl.
Oh, he
Well,
says
John
John
thinks
thinks
he looks-
like
yeah.
he looks like a
Yeah.
girl. Which is just awesome.
Yeah.
And Sansa's like good at being like ladylike. She like doesn't let her affect her. Like a lot of times, if you said that to like a little girl who's excited about like her future husband or whatever, she'd be pissed. But Sansa just like brushes it off and says, "Oh, John just says that because he's a bastard and he's
Yeah.
Brushes it off by calling him a bastard.
Well, I'm saying it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's kind of a
like
yeah.
his opinion doesn't matter because he's kind of a piece of shit.
Well,
by
exactly.
birth.
Well, most girls
No,
will get mad.
that's pretty low, man.
Yeah, it's low, but
yeah,
it's not
that's
like
why I hate Sansa.
it
you know?
seems like
She's
she doesn't-
Miley's favorite
it
character.
seems like
It's
she
not
doesn't
like
show
she's-
that it bothers
Yeah.
her though. She like
She's not coming to the defense of Joffrey, like, oh my god, he's so tall and his hair is perfect and his face is blah blah blah. You know, she's just like, well, fuck John, he's a bastard.
yeah, like fight fire with fire. Turn the disc back around and make fun of John now. Like Sansa makes fun of, or Arya makes fun of somebody who Sansa cares about or seems to care
Okay.
about Joffrey, and then she just turns the tables instead of letting it affect her. So then and Arya does the opposite of that. She does get mad and she like yells, and that's what brings everybody's attention to her. And Septa asks what's going on, and like Sansa again is just like poking at her. She whispers, because Arya yells like, "John's my brother," She freaks out, and Septa's like, "What's going on?" And after Septa realizes, Arya like whispers to, or Sansa whispers to Arya like half brother, and then she responds to the Septa, and you can tell that she didn't say he's our half brother out loud, because then whatever she says, like we were talking about to the Septa, it's like not about Jon, right? It says like,
It was
Yeah.
like, we're so happy that Marcella's here.
oh yeah,
How pleased
exactly.
to have the princess with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
She is a little deviant.
Yeah. She's just like bitchy, I guess, right? That's what you would call that.
She's
being
like
bitchy.
the head mean girl. You could just
Yeah.
picture
Yeah, she's
Mean
the head
Girls.
bitch.
She's Rachel McAdams, whatever her character's name.
Yeah, so Arya freaks out, and Septa asks to see.
Septa comes over, asks for her work, and she's like, "Oh my god, this is awful. Like, what are you doing?"
Then
Yeah,
she
look at
freaks
this
out,
shit.
starts crying.
She said, "At least you didn't do as bad as Jeff.
You wish you saw my embroidery.
You're gonna embroider something for us."
So Arya does like manage to compose herself before she storms off, and she like says she like hides the tears from her eyes, turns around, and says that she has to go shoe a horse, making fun of the whole hands of a
She
black
pretty
man.
much told her to go suck her
What a
dick.
great little
That was,
line
that's
by a
pretty-
9-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That
then
is a good
And
line.
then she like asked Marcella's leave to go because that was something else that Septa yelled at. But before she gets an answer, she storms off.
Yeah.
And then she says, Arya says that she's like, as she's walking away, she's like kind of jealous of Sansa, and she says that the only things that she's better than Sansa at are horseback riding, which is weird to even know, like, to be able to compare skills in horseback riding at the age of 9. My sister went to her horseback riding thing at her 9th birthday party, and like all the girls were like getting walked around the circle by like a person holding the reins. To be 9 years old and to like know, oh, I'm better than that person at horseback riding.
Yeah,
what does
but
that even mean?
they've been riding. It's not like you can ride in a car. Like if you're riding in a horse, or you're riding in one of those carriage things that they have.
You can kind of tell, yeah.
I guess
They've
probably
been riding horses since they were like 4 years old.
Yeah, because Bran rides the pony when they go to see the thing.
Right. So they've been riding, and you just it sounds like everything. Arya's more of the tomboy type where she can't do the fine girl stuff, so she's riding horses. She wants to go to the yard to see the fighting get done.
Well, what's the other thing she says she's better at Sansa at than
housework,
like
which doesn't
figures?
Which
Running
but
a household.
how is housework?
No, running
money?
a household.
Yeah, which is like math.
Running.
Like knowing how much food you need, and like I think when they say figures, it means math, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
they said running
that's
a household,
what I took
not
it as
figures.
too. But
well, that's like all your finances and
Don't
all
they say
your
figures?
doing all that other stuff. Yes, Nelson.
When
had
is
much of a
Arya
head for
at
figures.
9 years old ever running the household to know that she would
They
be
don't
better
say
at?
running the household; they say figures.
Dude, read the
That
fucking
Kyle
and
thing.
just
manage
did.
a household. No, that and manage a household.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah,
Sansa
shut the
never
fuck
had
up.
much of a head for figures.
And then she says she hopes she has a good steward.
Yeah,
Has a good
which
steward.
All right,
And
so
it's
say you're
like-
sorry for yelling.
it's math and all the house responsibilities. She's not very good at them.
It's because she's a lady. She's above that. But yeah,
Right.
so
That's what I'm saying. Like, do they really need to? And when is the 9-year-old and 11-year-old like going to the food storage bin and being like, "Oh, we need 80 more pounds of mace"?
I don't think it's that. I think it's like the maester comes to you and is like, "Hey, we have this much more food left. What do we need to do?" And it's like, "Oh, well,
Plant more."
We're gonna go through a long winter, or we didn't get enough harvest, so we need to buy this much from here." That kind of stuff. It's like all the mathy parts. Something that you would need a spreadsheet for. That a spreadsheet would help out a lot in the olden times. So doesn't matter. She runs out, goes. First thing she finds is her wolf. Kyle, do you remember her wolf's name?
Nymeria.
Nymeria. Hell, you have the book open right in front of you.
Well, yeah.
That's a good, yeah. Good job. Good job being prepared. So she gets her wolf and she runs to see the boys fighting in the yard. So she goes to this like covered bridge. That's in
Well, wait a
between.
second. So they did talk about how the name caused a little uproar there.
The name of the wolf.
Yeah, yeah.
What do they say?
The name is a warrior princess.
Yeah, there you go.
So why did that cause?
Named her after the warrior queen of the Rhone, who led her people across the narrow sea. That had been a great scandal too, which I'm assuming is her naming it was a scandal. I don't know what that has to do with anything.
I don't see why that would be. Maybe, but I don't know.
Probably because people were like, "That's not a ladylike name." like lady.
There you go. That's actually probably a good
Okay,
one.
I guess. So anyway, she gets her wolf, runs to see the boys fighting, and she goes to the covered bridge and she sees John and Ghost there. And they're like watching through a window in the bridge over top of like the everybody fighting. And when they get up, what's the first thing they see?
The fat Timon.
Yeah.
Tolman.
And Tommen, that's what it is. Tommen, fat Tommen, and
It was a
who
brand,
was
right?
it? Bran? Yeah, it was Bran.
And so Bran is 7. Let me check and see how old Timon is.
I think he's like 6.
I have Y for his age, so
He's
there was a typo in my notes. He's either 6 or 7. Those are the two numbers above Y, so I'll go with 6 for now.
Doesn't matter. He's fat and
So I picture
padded
these
and
guys looking
swole.
like the kids from Christmas
The
Story.
little, yeah,
and they
yeah,
get
yeah,
like
yeah.
completely bundled up.
I was gonna say the
Yeah,
kid from
yeah.
Little Giants who shows up in like styrofoam
Every
padding. Yeah, like
Yeah.
just wrapped up.
So they're fighting, but they're fighting with wooden swords. And Sir Roderick Castle, the guy we were talking about earlier, who's the master at arms, is one like who's teaching them. And there's like a group of people, including Robb Stark and Theon Greyjoy, who are watching on and cheering, along with like Joffrey, and a bunch of Lannister men.
Bunch of douchebags.
Or Baratheon men.
Or Baratheon men. I think they call out Lannister though. They say that she sees him like wearing like Lannister.
They definitely talk about somebody being
So first
from the Lannisters.
they do talk about Joffrey and
The
Jon.
burned guy is a Lannister, I think. Anyway,
The burned
maybe
guy,
not.
I think he might be wearing Lannister armor. I do have the quote they talk about not the quote after when they talk about Joffrey, but yeah. So she mentions that fighting looks more fun, and then we learn that we just get like a hint that says Jon and Arya were like really close, and it seems like she cares less that he's a bastard than the other kids. Didn't seem like Bran cared that much either. When they like in that first Bran chapter we got, but Sansa.
Yeah, I mean he looks up to Jon too. It does note that both of them have more Stark features than the rest of them.
Oh yeah,
than the rest of the
Yeah.
brood.
Yeah, she says that Robb, Bran, Sansa, and Rickon all took after the Tullys with their easy smiles and their fair hair. And Arya even thought that she used to be a bastard because she doesn't look like her mom when all her other true-born.
So who did she ask to make sure she wasn't a bastard?
Jon.
Yeah, so that was in the past.
I don't
that's not
remember
in
that.
this
I don't
chapter.
remember that
They
line,
mentioned
shit.
saying
That definitely happened.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh my god, did you guys read this chapter?"
No, I mean I haven't read it in a
Yeah,
little
but
bit.
she doesn't ask him that in
Jesus
this
Christ.
chapter. She just thinks about asking them that in the past. Yeah.
No, she did ask him in the past.
Okay, gotcha. And then because the next thing she asks him, and she feels stupid about it, she's like, "Oh, why aren't you down there fighting with the boys?" And immediately she realizes that it's because he's a bastard,
Yeah.
so she like feels ashamed.
Yeah, and that he says a prince can't be hurt by a bastard. It has to be a true-born sword or
Yeah.
something like that.
So then Arya says for the second time today, she reflected how life was not fair. So what's the first time? That she had to do needlework?
Yeah, the
Or
first
that
one
like
was
Sansa's like
Yeah.
so gifted
so much
and
better. Yeah,
Oh. Is it that she's better, or just that she gets everything, like she gets stuff that Arya doesn't get because she's older?
yeah, I mean probably like just Sansa's so perfect and like everyone thinks so highly of her is what I would take from it.
Yeah.
But Bran beats the shit out of Tommen.
Yeah, but then Arya says that she thinks she could fight better than Bran. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean she's older.
And Jon says she's too skinny and can't even hold a sword, so then he like messes up her hair.
No, he like grabs her arm like to feel her muscle, and then
yeah.
she like
Tussles her hair.
rips her arm away and says, "I can beat his ass," and then he tussles her hair.
Yeah, next up is when they talk about the fact that Joffrey is wearing his like the arms, like everybody's wearing like the Stark thing on their chest or the Lannister logo on their chest, logo sigil, but his is like split diagonally or halfway down the middle, and one half is the crown stag and the other half is the lion.
Yeah.
And Jon's like, "Wow, the Lannisters must be proud if they would have if the king's sigil wasn't enough, they have to wear like the wife's
Their
too."
own, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's such a crazy thing to do.
Well,
that's like hyphenating your name.
it's weird because
Yeah,
Arya is
seriously.
for it. She says, "This is the quote I have. The woman is important too." Arya protested. Jon chuckled. "Perhaps you should do the same thing, little sister. Wed Tully to Stark in your arms." A wolf with a fish in his mouth. It made her laugh. That would look silly. Besides, if a girl can't fight, why should she have a coat of arms? John shrugged. Girls get the arms, but not the swords. Bastards get the swords, but not the arms. I didn't make the rules, little sister. I just think that's a cool quote. First off, the fact that Arya is like feminist, and two, the fact that
She's a part of the Me Too movement for sure.
the fact that John points out that girls are almost treated on a level with like bastards in this like society.
I don't know about
not
that.
the same treatment, but like
I think John's kind of saying like, all right, well, really, the coat of arms is everything. If you have a coat, like, you're doing okay. Like I have the sword, and you know.
Yeah, but if you're a god,
No coat of
if you're
arms.
a trueborn male, like pretty highborn, you can kind of do whatever you want with your life. If you're a bastard male, there's like half your life is restricted. You don't get all the opportunities. If you're a girl, you don't get all the opportunities.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
but
he's definitely equating it.
to this point, we haven't. Arya is the first girl that
We get Cat. We've had 2 Cat chapters and a Danny.
you didn't let me finish.
It's because you didn't know where you were
only-
going with it.
No, I did. It's the only girl that wants to be a part of the male activities, the fighting, and she likes horse riding more than needlework and shit like that.
So that's the other thing is Arya too tropey, right? Like most likable, I feel like most likable kid girl characters, you never watch a movie where the protagonist is like a really girly girl. You know what I mean? They're all kind of like tomboys.
Legally
Can't be
blonde,
yeah, dude. Get the hell out of here.
clueless.
I've never seen either of those. Are those chick flicks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legally Blonde is great. I don't care what you guys say.
Reese Witherspoon. She goes to Harvard, man.
All right, well maybe it's just because I don't watch the right kind of movies. But I always thought that like the girl protagonist was like tomboyish, and that was kind of like a trope.
You better watch.
Princess
God.
Leia was pretty hot.
Tomboy.
Yeah.
I
better
don't
watch
know
what you
about
say
that.
and
She's
She's
like
just-
wearing
shooting
a,
people. So she's got a blaster. She's out there shooting
she's
people.
like doing it in a dress though, and like high
So
heels.
what? You can play as
She's
her.
like running. She's like running around in high heels and a dress.
You can play as her in
I
Battlefront.
don't think she's tomboy.
I
What?
don't think
Princess
she's
Leia?
She's not a tomboy at all.
You're insane. Kyle, back
You're
me up here.
insane.
I don't know.
You're crazy.
I'm gonna make a Twitter poll right now.
She's just as tomboy as Arya is.
No way. You're a fool for saying this.
She is a tomboy.
No way.
She's out there shooting people. She's
No,
on the
she's
front
not.
lines.
Yeah,
That doesn't make you a tomboy. If people are shooting at you, you have a gun, you shoot back.
Yeah, I totally agree with Jeff here.
I'm on the fence. I think I could be swayed either way. I haven't heard a good argument from either
She's
of
a
you.
tomboy. I don't have a good argument, but she's a tomboy.
Alright, we're gonna see what Twitter says.
All right, moving on. So after Bran and Tommen finish their fight, Roderick starts like saying, like, Robb and Joffrey, do you guys want to go again? And Arya said when she first comes up, she could tell that they had already fought because they were like sweaty already or something. This reminds me of something that I think is in the first John chapter when they're walking in the Great Hall. John says that even though they're 2 years older than Joffrey, he's taller than them, and that like pisses John off a little bit. So we know that Robb is a little bit older here, but I think it's 2 years, and that's like a main point that Joffrey keeps bringing up. Is like, oh, well, you're older, blah blah blah, and they keep laughing at him. So how's it go when Roderick asks him to fight again?
Well, Joffrey wants to use real steel or something like that.
Well,
And
Robb's
Roderick
down.
Castle- Yeah, Rob's totally down. He wants to kill him, and then fucking Castle's like, "No, you're not doing that shit, bro."
Yeah, so exactly what you said. But when Joffrey does it, he kind of not just says, "Oh, I want to use steel." What I get out of it is Joffrey knows that Roderick isn't going to allow this, and he brings
No
it
doubt
up.
about it. No
He's trying to
doubt
make John
about
look like a bitch.
Robb.
Rob, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but Robb is all about it, and Roderick's like, "Oh, I can't have it." And
I mean,
then-
here's the thing. Rob to this point has probably fucked him up, and with tourney swords.
yeah, because I think when Joffrey goes, he's like, "I'm tired of swatting at Starks with blunted steel with wooden swords," and Robb says like, "You got more than you gave."
He definitely said that.
And then that's when Joffrey's like, "Well, you're so much older," and then that's when all like the Joffrey men,
Lannister men.
Lannister men, laugh. And oh wait, that's actually before Live Steel. He says that I've been swatting at Starks for too long. Then makes fun of how old he is. Then they laugh, and then that's when he suggests Live Steel. And Robb is like immediately before Roderick even gets a word in. But Roderick says, no, I'll let you guys use 20 swords, which makes me think they were probably using wooden swords the first time.
Yeah,
like not even,
they were.
Yeah.
It says that.
So this is when Sandor Clegane, they describe him as the huge man with burns on his face, comes out, and tells Sir Roderick that he has no right to deny them live steel, and he says, I'm the master of arms, I have every right. And then Clegane is like, are you training women? And Roderick's like, I'm training knights, and they'll use live steel when they're of age. And this is when Clegane asks Rob how old he is, and Rob says 14, and Clegane's like, I've killed a man when I was 12, and you can bet it wasn't with a blunted sword. Which is just like, holy fuck. Don't mess with this big dude with burns on his face.
What the fuck was Clegane doing when he was 12 years old?
Exactly.
Yeah, seriously, what the fuck?
So
Him and his brother were hanging out.
Yeah. So Rob begins to like beg Roderick, like, please let me do it, let me do it, let me do it. And he says no. And then this is when Joff gets like another jab in. He says, come see me when you're older, Stark. If he isn't too old. Again, making fun, basically saying you're too young to play with real swords, but you're still older than me, and I'm willing to do it. And then they laugh some more. Rob gets really pissed to the point where they say Theon grabs his arm. And I don't think it's like a hold me back type thing. I think it's just like they probably like grab, like Theon can see that he's getting pissed off and like grabs his arm and like gives him a little yank to remind him to just like take a chill pill.
To hold back.
Yeah.
Chill out.
It also makes Theon seem bigger than. Like, all right, yeah.
Well, he
Theon,
is.
like,
Theon's 19.
Yeah, I know he's
Yeah, he is
19, but
old.
it doesn't make it seem like is he that much physically bigger than him?
Dude, a
'Cause it does sound
19-year-old
like
and a 14-year-old?
I took it more that he like held him back, like sit down, young buck.
I think it just like grabbed his arm, grabbed his shoulder, pulled him back. But it's not like he's getting in his way. Like Rob's like storming at Joffrey. Now he didn't charge him out. You know what I mean?
He's just checking his heat. Like yo, chill out, dude.
Yeah.
So Joffrey fake yawns. He's like, Tommen, let's go. We're to like leave the children to their play or whatever. And Arya says that you can tell that Rob and Roderick at this point are both really fucking pissed.
It's kind of weird that the Lannisters or the Baratheons don't have a master at arms there. Do they need to stay at the castle? I don't think so.
I feel like that's a castle position, kind of like the master of horse. You wouldn't bring your master of horses because you have horses. They're just the one who runs the stables.
I mean, I feel like that person's also the one like training the army though. Like if you had to take like they brought a big, following with them. I don't know what you would actually call it.
But it wasn't like the whole battalion though. It was only I think 100 people or something. They said
no, it was way more than that.
I think it was 100 knights plus all their squires in attendance and free riders, which is probably just random people who showed up.
So like 200.
So maybe since they're already knights, they don't train with that guy anymore. I don't know.
Well, I think it's just more of like a.
I think, like Nelson said, it's a castle position.
Yeah, like there's still knights in the capital, right? It's not like they took every knight in the capital. So if they want to go train and they show up at the armory, the master of arms.
Yeah, but I'm looking at like, all right, you're the family of the house. Like you have a coach. You have a guy that's pretty much coaching your son, a personal trainer. You're gonna leave your son away from his personal trainer for months and not. He won't be trained by him.
This guy coming from the coach perspective here.
Yeah, shit.
Like they're gone for. They don't say the timeline, but it's a long time.
Yeah, but over the summer when those high school kids take a break, they go to college football camps and train with a different coach. Get a different perspective.
Oh, he burned you there. He burned you there.
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You're at your high school working out. You might go on a summer camp on the weekend. Don't be stupid.
I went to Penn State football camp for 2 weeks because I'm a freaking pro prospect.
Don't hype up stupid shit that he just said because that made no sense at all.
Yo, he's 12 years old. He's not in high school. He's going to the fucking. You're not going to football practice every day. Dude, when you're in 5th grade,
you've got a guy that's training your son. You have a guy
week.
that's training your son. It's not football. I'm not saying that at all. This guy is training his son to be a fighter. All right, now they're going on a trip for, let's say, 4 months. That guy's going to stop training him to be a fighter when he could be the king tomorrow?
Well,
dude, he's taking a little vacation, bro.
Here's the thing. I see where you're coming from.
Get breaks.
They don't have vacation. It's a summer. They're not working. They don't have a 9 to 5.
I guess that's
true. His life is to be trained to be a king.
He's not in K-12.
So
K-12.
His life is to be a king. If he's not training to be a king, he's not doing dick.
I got what you're saying, but here's the thing. That's a valid point if they weren't taking 100 knights with them. Right? Like they're taking people who can fill in.
But, okay, whatever. Move on.
It's like if one kid.
Other people can train them.
Okay, here's the example. One kid's going on vacation with his family. You don't send the coach. You don't send the coach on family vacation.
I'm over talking about it. I'm over talking about it. This isn't a 3-day fucking weekend in Sea Isle.
I'm saying you don't send the coach. You don't send the coach with the kid on vacation. You send the coach to stay and train the rest of the team. And then while the kid's gone.
Shut up. I'm over it. Your analogies and your arguments tonight are awful, and I'm tired of hearing
Well,
it.
we're right. You obviously don't send the coach because the coach stayed back in King's Landing, and he got Roger Cassell or Castle if you're Glow. We're almost at the end of the chapter, and we just got derailed for like 10 minutes. So John tells Arya, just go to your room, and then basically says like the longer you're gone, the longer you're missing, the worse the punishment will be, and they'll have you sewing all through winter. And then John walks off with Ghost, and Arya returns to her room to not only find Septa Mordain, but also her mama. And that's the end.
The end.
Kyle, any predictions? What's going to happen to Arya for being for running away?
For running away. So, John told her she's gonna be doing needlework forever,
Through winter.
but maybe they're gonna make her stay. Now that you say this,
Well, wasn't her mom wanted her to stay already?
well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe they're gonna say you can't come anymore. You asked a prediction. Don't talk me out of my prediction that I'm making.
All right.
He always does that. He's always like
Well, I like to bring up
counterpointing
points.
predictions.
I like to bring up valid points. Let you think about it.
You haven't done that yet tonight.
Jeff is
Jeff
angry.
gets salty.
Jeff's
quick.
salty as fuck over there.
Yeah.
Just because the coach is the one that has no idea how coaching's done.
That's the same move. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we'll let Kyle go, and then you guys can hear Jeff rip me up a new one in the spoiler section.
Yeah, and keep an eye on our Twitter for Jeff's embroidery pictures.
Exactly. We'll get him right on that.
He's gonna next week. He'll have.
Send in your suggestions of what Jeff should
Yeah.
try to embroider.
Yeah. Hey, wait.
I
What was?
I won't try. I'll do.
Try.
Yoda quote.
All right. Good night.
See you, Kyle.
See you go.
Bye.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
All right, Kyle just left us. Arya
Miss you,
Chester,
Kyle.
dope Arya. Arya's great. All the personality of this show. Book.
So, this real short chapter. We talked way too long for the non-spoiler section. Not much to talk about here.
I mean,
I only have two
that's why
little
we
notes.
talked more about it, because we knew we weren't gonna
Yeah.
say what were we gonna say. John's going to the wall. She's getting a needle.
Glow, do you have any notes for this chapter? I know sometimes you write down some notes to talk about in the spoiler section.
Yeah, just like the one thing, like Ghost noticed them first, and then like immediately as he noticed, John like notices.
Yeah.
So it's like
again,
kind of like a connection still.
kind of like what we were saying in the
or
John
he-
chapter. How
Or they both have ears, and the dog's ears are better.
yeah,
maybe.
but you know,
the way I see what you're saying. The way it's written kind of makes you think.
and Ghost is already larger. He nips at Nymeria, kind of like putting her in her place, and then later.
All your shit is about ghosts.
Yeah, dude, because he always hints about Ghost when he brings
You're
up
just a
Ghost.
huge-
I notice.
You're just a huge ghost fan.
Yeah, I am. And
That's awesome.
Nymeria was planning on following Ghost. She
Oh, yeah,
believes he is
afterwards.
the pack leader.
That's true. That's a good call. So the two things I have, first one, Hands of a Blacksmith. This was a big theory people had going into season 8, because this is the same quote. This same quote gets dropped in the show. So obviously, Blacksmith, Gendry, is already going to end up with Gendry.
No.
That's a very good note. Yeah,
I don't think that's
She is not
very
getting
likely
killed.
at all.
No.
In this book. The show was that I thought it was more likely. I just thought I'd point it out over there. And second thing I wanted to talk about was,
Isn't
the quote
Gendry
at
like
the-
18 in this? Isn't he like old as shit?
but as they grow
I read a
up,
chapter with it. I think he's like 16.
yeah, as they grow
When
up,
he-
they get closer in age. That's a fact.
That is
What?
that is Very true,
Dude,
but
are you smoking the
it was
special
so
hash
weird.
tonight?
No,
what
like,
the fuck
It
are
makes
you talking
sense.
about?
It makes
the
sense.
ratio, you know what I mean? Like the ratio
It makes
of
sense,
their
I get it.
age to the age gap is lower. Like if you meet somebody who's like 50 and 60 and they're married, oh, no problem. But if they're like 2 and 12, okay, obviously that's a problem. You know what I mean? A 10-year age gap doesn't mean as much as you get older. So if she's 9 and he's 16, yeah, 7 years, that's doable. And by the time she's like 25, that's fine. 25, 32, they're good. You know what
Sure.
I mean? Probably even younger than that. And in these times, fuck, she's fine now. They're good now. They're fucking kids. Let them have fun.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
All right. What notes did you have, Nelson? Because I don't have shit. She's got a needle.
So the only
needlework,
thing besides
needlework,
Hand of the
needlework.
Blacksmith
All that's the only
is-
thing that's brought up is
It
needlework.
talks about needle. You'll be sewing all through winter, and when the spring
Oh,
fall
I
comes,
didn't even think
they
of
will
that.
find your body with a needle still locked tight between your frozen fingers. So, like you said earlier, we know she's about to get a sword that she names Needle.
And she's gonna
and then-
die in the winter.
So we get this quote. You'll be sewing all through winter. When the spring thaw comes, they will find your body with a needle still locked tight between your frozen fingers.
Doesn't say she's dead.
It doesn't, or she's an other, but we don't think others use weapons. But just a very interesting quote. Raise my eyebrows when I read that.
That's it. I didn't even think of that. That's damn it. She's dying in the winter.
And the other thing, we kind of touched on it, Nymeria. I don't want to get too far into it. It's not really spoilers because it's not really in these books. But do you guys know the story of Nymeria?
Nymeria of the Rhoyne.
Of the Rhoynar?
The
Yeah.
Rhoynar, yeah. I
No.
mean, she was a warrior princess.
Is she the one that hopped
Ooh.
on the dragon?
No. So
No, she
I'll just
took
give you guys
over
real
the
quick-
north with somebody. Didn't they?
No, Dorne. She lands in Dorne. So what happened? Every time they say Robert Baratheon, King of the Andals, the first men in the Rhoynar, Protector of the Seven Kingdoms, all that shit. First men, they're the people who were there first, obviously, kind of like the Native Americans. They came across the broken arm of Dorne at some time in history, and then the Children of the Forest flooded it. That's why it's the broken arm now. It used to be the arm. Dorne used to be connected to Essos down there at the bottom. Then the Andals came. The Andals were scared out from Valyria. Once the Valyrian stronghold started to become a thing and that all those people had dragons, the Targaryens were just a minor family from the freehold of Valyria. And they started expanding and taking slaves, and as they did, that pushed the Andals across the sea because they were being enslaved by the Valyrians. That's when the Andals come to Westeros. The Rhoynar were the people who lived along the major river that runs the whole way through Essos called the Rhoyne. And they were pretty peaceful. They weren't a collective, like, they were called the Rhoynar, but it wasn't like they were all united. It was basically just a bunch of different standalone cities that lived off the water. They worshiped the Mother Rhoyne, which is when Tyrion gets there later. It's like they kind of said the old man of the river. That's the river that he eventually merges to. And they're like, oh, the Rhoyne is huge. And Tyrion's like, this river's not that big. Like the Trident is this big. But as it opens up, they get to a point where when Tyrion's in the middle of this river, he can't see land on either side. That's how big the Rhoyne is. And it flows basically the whole way through Essos. There's a couple of major cities along it. The biggest of all is the one at the mouth. That's Volantis. That was actually settled by the not the Targaryens, the Valerians, the freehold, the Valerians who had all the dragons, the Dragon Lords. They settled Volantis, the largest city in Essos, the hugest, biggest slave city. But as you go up, you get to like Selhoris and Troyane, and that's actually where the Stonemen are from, is Troyane. There's a lot of history you can read about it, but basically what happens is the Valyrians come in and start to settle along this city. And at first the Rhoynar were like, sure, we're not like confrontational, do what you want, have your different settlements. Something happened and it pissed them off, and Rhoynar was split. Nymeria said, we need to get the fuck out of here. These guys have dragons, they're going to fucking kill us. This other dude, Garin the Great, rallied the rest of Dorne, including Nymeria's people. She was the princess of some city. But Garin the Great rallies all of them, and they attack the Valyrians. They actually win the first fight. They have 300 dragons, and the Rhoynar just kind of, when the dragons come, they just kind of, they chill waist deep in water, shoot arrows at the people on land. But when the dragons come, they just kind of duck underwater. So they win the first battle or two as they go from north to south down the river, and he has his people split up into thirds, 1/3 on each bank and a 1/3 down the middle on a huge fleet. But when they get to Volantis, they said there was 300 dragons, and they literally boiled the river so that people couldn't hide in it, and just like fucked up the entire army. Nymeria was able to escape with like a couple people, and she got them to flee. They took ships and they got out to sea and they just fled. They traveled from place to place. Eventually, died. Like a lot of them died. They were tricked on different islands that made a couple stops. Eventually, they land in Dorne, and when they land in Dorne, she burns the entire fleet, and she's like, "This is where we're staying. We're safe here." They marry with the Martell family. Like the Martell family used to be, uh, like their sigil used to just be the sun, and Nymeria's sigil was the spear, which is why the Martell family now is the sun and spear. They like joined in. Most of it. So also, there's a huge river that runs east-west through Dorne called the Greenblood. So there's a major family that lives there, or not a major family, but a group of people that live across along that. It's called the Orphans of the Greenblood, and it's because they're orphans of Mother Royne. They claim like the most Royne descendants, right? Because everybody from Nymeria's land came in and married in with the Dornish. The orphans are basically still mostly Roynish. They immediately clung to this river, lived off it the same way that Roynar did. But that's Nymeria. She's like the warrior princess. She doesn't actually. I mean, she fights in the wars against the Valyrians, but she's kind of the one who's like, let's get the fuck out of here. Let's save everybody. And nobody listens to her, and they all die for it. And she takes the remaining like refugees basically and takes them in. Most of Dorne is like a really Roynar people.
All right.
But that's basically it.
Please tie this back to why she was named Nymeria, and tell me you haven't wasted 5 minutes of my life.
That is basically wasted if you're not interested in that. But the reason this is important for Arya is because what she says in this chapter is important because of what she says with Joffrey. When we learn that when Jon starts talking about how Joffrey divides his sigil down the middle, half Lannister, half Baratheon. A lot of people do that. People think that, oh, Joffrey does that because he's all Lannister, he's fucking incest. But like all the Freys do that. And it's not because they're ashamed of being Freys, it's because there's so many Freys they need to like distinguish themselves. Like they have to be different from the rest of the.
You don't think
else.
this has anything to do with Cersei saying like, "Oh, that's not like I'm gonna sneakily do this because he's really Lannister."
Oh no, I do think that, but I'm saying it's not as big of a red flag as it seems to us right now. Like there are people who do this, but that doesn't even matter. The point I'm trying to make is Arya is maybe not super feminist. How feminist can you be when you're 9 years old? But she definitely respects like
feminine power.
Feminine figures. We know they haven't talked about it yet, but later on we find out that Visenya, who Aegon the Conqueror's two sisters were Rhaenys and Visenya. Visenya was like the I'll fight everybody, and Rhaenys fought people too, but she was like, oh, I'm so pretty, marry me, that kind of girl. Visenya was just ruthless. Arya's a big Visenya fan. You can tell she just loves strong, like I do whatever the fuck I want, kind of like her, women. You know what I mean? Like tomboyish. Don't take shit from anybody type people.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree with that.
So I think as we go forward, like just point out the importance of a name like that, Nymeria, especially when we know what ends up happening to Nymeria. Nymeria was the woman who led all these people from Dorne to Westeros. Nymeria, after Arya gets rid of her, she becomes like the leader of a wolf pack, just like Nymeria was the leader of all these Dornish people. And it just shows the kind of heroes that Arya has.
Yeah, sure.
And some foreshadowing.
That might have been super boring if nobody cares about the history of the Roynar, but I assume if you're listening to a Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire podcast, you might be interested in some of that stuff. And a lot of you guys probably already read the World of Ice and Fire, where most of that comes from. But yes, interesting stuff. Nymeria is fucking badass. Dope wolf name. I think it's second coolest name behind Ghost, especially after you know that story.
I don't know.
You got fucking
I
Lady
like,
Grey Wind.
Yeah. What's
Shaggy Dog's
Shaggy
pretty cool
Dog?
name.
Shaggy Dog. Lady's my favorite name, guys.
Lady's a bitch name.
It is a shitty
Not
name.
Lady.
No,
Lady
not
died,
Lady.
by the way.
It wasn't her.
Lady? Does she mean Lady?
All right, well,
Sansa's
kinda
the
gave that-
worst.
I kind of told that story also to give a little filler in this spoiler section because I don't think there's much else to talk about. That's all I had, unless you guys have other stuff.
I mean, was there anything with Jon? I don't think so. Other than the ghost bullshit, like nothing from what he said.
Nymeria has yellow eyes. That might mean that Sansa or Arya has good connection with cats because they're normally associated with yellow eyes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Arya. We know Arya later totally stumps the kindly man by warging a cat,
Yeah.
but without further ado, we'll cut this one off here. Everybody have a great night. Catch us next week where we talk about what's the next chapter. Anybody know?
Brand 3?
Here's the thing about this book is if you, say you're out fishing, you have your line in the water. Sometimes you get a little nibble. That's where Kyle's at now. Little nibble Arya, little nibble Bran, little nibble Cat. Brand 2 comes along. You whip that puppy back, hook is sunk. When Bran falls from that tower, that's reading time. I think after Kyle reads this next chapter, we're gonna have to start pumping these out a little faster.
Do you think he's gonna read it tonight?
No, he likes to wait to the day or two before we read next time. So,
all right.
Yeah, this is definitely the one. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't start Nick's podcast like, "Good morning, Westeros," right when we start recording, he didn't read well enough or something. He's not.
I don't know how you missed this one.
We are slowing him down real hard though. Like
this next chapter is kind of one of like the slowest chapters because not that these ones have a lot going on, but it's like giving you a ton of information. Like here's people, here's places, here's stuff that happened, here's people, different places, relationships. Bran goes climbing. Then he grabs this stone, and then it's loose. Then he grabs this stone, and it's mossy. Then he climbs some more, and he likes this building because the roofs are slanted. It's like completely useless nonsense. And you're like, what the fuck am I reading? And then it's the things I do for love. And you're like, what the fuck? And like this chapter almost lulls you into a sense of, oh my god, this is a boring ass chapter. Bran's dead.
Bran's hurt.
I probably dead. I bet you when Kyle reads this the first time, he thinks Bran's dead.
Nah.
Because I think it ends with like something about like Bran fell backward into open air, and somewhere in the distance he heard a wolf howl or something.
Yeah,
that's how it ends.
He probably will.
Did I just nail the end of that chapter not having read it?
Well, it's a good thing because you fucked up everything about this chapter. And on that note, see everybody next week.
The night is dark and full of terrors.